I'm Quinn Murphy, and this is In My Chair. Today's episode is brought to you by Spatch. You get a zit, you want to cover it, but you put a cream or a liquid on top of it, and then it just looks obvious and worse. Now there's Spatch. It's a pressed powder color corrector and concealer, which means that it doesn't add texture, you can control the coverage, and it's really invisible. Use In My Chair 10 for 10% off at spatchskin.com.
Melissa Coleman is the Director of Business Development at Coleman Dermatology, editorial fashion stylist, and owner of the page Mrs. Derm, with over 21,000 devoted and engaged followers. I included that last part. She's a mom and a wife. I got to know Melissa after being introduced from our mutual friend, Dr. Ellen Gendler, who recommended that I send her the Spatch product when it launched. I reached out to Melissa. I sent her the product without any expectation, and we formed a friendship from there. Melissa, welcome in my chair.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I have to tell you something is that, and I've never told anyone this. So you got the product and actually just posted it out of like, I don't even think we were really friends just because you liked it. I
Yes.
think, yeah.
I do like a thing with companies when they reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, can we send you our stuff?" And the deal with me, because I don't do any sort of paid anything, is sure, you can send it. I get to review it. And most companies are like, "Oh, never mind, that's fine." And so I was really impressed that you're like, "Yeah, here you go."
Yeah. From anyone who's ever posted anything about Spatch, I got the most sales from you, from anyone. And I've had
I
some really big people post. It was unbelievable. I was like, what is going on my phone? And that is a testament to you because you are no bullshit. If you say you like something, you like it. I'm sure it's gotten you into trouble before. But people believe
the
you in a time when everybody's trying to sell something. And yeah, so tell me, I don't even know where to start. But today is for people who really want to know what should I be doing? What's the skincare? What's real? What's not? What works? And what's honest about what people are doing? That's who you are to me. And that's why I wanted to have you on the
Thanks.
podcast.
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of background if I can.
Yes.
When I met my husband, which was, oh my gosh, almost 15 years ago, I went to his office for the first time. Actually, I was really sick and I went into his office for a steroid shot. And I think it was like his way to, he was calling that our second date or whatever, to get me in his office. And I remarked immediately, like, you walk in and they don't sell any product. They don't sell, like, I was used to going to a dermatologist where you walk in and there's like glass shelving units and there's all this product everywhere, eye creams and neck creams. And I said to him, like, where's all your product? And he said, we don't sell any. And I thought that was really strange. And I was like, well, what about, like, I can't even remember what I said at the time, like a moisturizer or whatever. And he said, we don't sell moisturizer, we don't sell cleanser, we don't sell any product. And I said, why? And he said, because it's all bullshit. And as a 31-year-old, like, self-proclaimed product whore, and I mean, like, the first time he was at my house, like, I had the La Mer and everything, and the Clarisonic. Do you remember the Clarisonic?
Oh, yeah.
Where we would
That
like
was a moment. Oh,
we would
yeah.
like grind bacteria into our faces. And we're like, it's clearing slash causing acne, right? And it sort of blew my mind. I was like, what do you mean it's bullshit? And he's like, it's all bullshit. And I was really resistant to this for a long time. This idea that, like, the majority of the stuff that you see out there really just doesn't affect change. And I tell women every day of my life that the whatever moisturizer they use is the least important decision they're going to make for their faces every day. And it was a learning experience for, the past 15 years of working with patients and sort of serving as, his sort of cosmetic consultant for a long time, and being in the office space with him and attending meetings and walking through vendor halls of the ASDS and the AAD, where every company out there has their sort of latest product du jour. And even noticing sort of the layout of the vendor halls, like the LED masks and all of that are sort of buried in the corner. They're in like the graveyard of the vendor halls. And,
You mean right now or
oh
before?
yeah, no, they always have been. Like right now, if you go, I should take you. You should come with me
I would
next
love
year.
that.
So,
No, we should totally. I would love to go. I've been to them for spats, like to the that kind, but not. You're probably more of the medical.
so this is all, you walk into the vendor hall, and the last time I went was for the SDS meeting in Chicago, and I brought a girlfriend of mine with me, and it's like a feeding frenzy. You go, and everybody has samples of their latest creams, and Nutrafol has this huge booth there, and I remarked that like everybody working in the Nutrafol booth had extensions, which was really kind of funny. And it's all and it's all just like product placement. Like if we can get this into a derm's office, the dermatologist is then going to pass along to the patients, and we're going to convince the derm as to why they need our moisturizer over anyone else. And over time, and really listening to Patrick and his father, my father-in-law is a legend in the field. He's still the editor of the Derm Journal. He's been the president of everything. I've never met a dermatologist who didn't know who he was, and one of the more well-respected names in the field. And he has steadfastly always said, here's the things that you need in life. And it turns out, he was right, and they were both right. And to this day, today they sell Retin-A in their office, and they sell a tyrosine inhibitor, which is, like a skin bleaching cream, which you have to get from a doctor. But, uh, he'll have patients to this day come in with like a grocery bag full of moisturizers, and they will dump it out for him, and they'll say, which one should I use? And he'll like just gather them all up and like throw them up in the air, and whichever moisturizer lands next to your right foot, that's your moisturizer today. And it was a mindset that until I started sort of putting stuff away and picking up things as like active ingredients, I had the best skin of my life just doing very little.
Mm. It's funny though, but because I can see a side in you that likes to, you know, see what's new and the creams
Oh,
out there. Like you still will buy
I'm
everything and
sending I'm sending this to you.
that I'm
This is
excited
actually on its
about.
way to you.
So
It's
you
amazing.
so you changed your kind of philosophy around everything, and then how did you get to the point where you were like, I'm gonna start sharing what I know on Instagram? Like, how did that start?
So I have a personal page that I don't, you follow it, but I don't, it's not advertised to the masses. But Patrick's patients would find me on my personal page, and even my friends, that I'm friends, they would start asking me questions like, "What do I do for this?" or "How do I fix this?" And I realized that um, I didn't want to use my personal page to talk about like, why, why do I have such smooth skin, or what is the deal with this laser or whatever. That my personal page was really meant to be just for like my stuff and my memories and my friends and things like that. So I decided to start just a separate page dedicated to like, hey, and I remember saying to Patrick, because he doesn't have time, no dermatologist really has time to sit and talk to patients about like, here's the steps in which you need to do something. They'll send you home with, a tube of Retin-A, and basically tell you not to burn your face off, and that's it. So I started a page just so people could ask me the questions that they wanted to ask me anyway. Like, you're married to a dermatologist, so if it is available to you, you would do it. If it worked, you would do it. And so, how do I fix certain things, or what do you do as a wife of a dermatologist, to make your skin look the way that it does? And I didn't, I thought I'd get like a couple hundred followers, and it sort of blew up.
Wow. Um, so basically, you have built this community of people online, and then also you have kind of segued that into a private consulting.
That started about a year ago. I realized that one of the biggest, problems I hear from my followers, or even my friends, is that their doctors aren't listening to them. And that they're going in, and one of the most common things that I hear is like, can you, I would get a message like, can you help me? I've seen 3 dermatologists. I have, my face is all red, and I'm told all the time just to like put down the red wine or put down the spicy food, and no one's listening to me. And I found that women were having a really tough time navigating the dermatological world. First of all, like how they when they call to make an appointment, really what to say. Like, if you're calling for Botox, you need to schedule Botox. If you're calling for Botox and you want to discuss A, B, and C, how to make that appointment so they're not feeling like the doctor comes in, spends 5 minutes with them, and leaves, and none of their questions get answered. And then how to identify kind of what's going on with their skin in order to be the best advocate that they can be for their own skin health. Um, and so I sort of threw it out there. I was like, well, for women that want to sit down and talk to me and say, how do I do this? And how do I navigate this world? And what are the products that I really do need? Let's see if we can't set up like a 30-minute window where they can sit down, talk to somebody who can help them. And even in some cases, you know, I get a handful of like, I just moved to Boston and I don't know a dermatologist there. And do you know one? And I don't have like a magic list of doctors, but where I do have people, where I do know people in cities that are reputable that, I either know or Patrick knows, or even someone like Ellen Gendler would refer
Hmm.
someone to. It's my job to just sort of set women up for like, here's the skincare routine that you need. If you're having problems talking to your dermatologist, here's the best way to do it and get what you want out of your appointment. And then here's what the sort of the long term of this is going to look like for you.
So, so basically, I'm kind of hearing is that you're almost like a medical advocate or somebody who sometimes people have, even in childbirth, will hire somebody to be their advocate, or if they're having a surgery or something, someone on the side to kind of give them help in terms that they can understand and actually tell them. My sister's a nurse too, and she when my grandfather was, dying, basically she kind of acted as a impromptu family medical advocate, even though it wasn't her department, but she knows what's available, what's out there, and what the norms are. So, because sometimes, like you said, maybe doctors don't have enough time to explain why something else is not an option, but you might have more time.
Right. And I think it's also important to explain to patients just, here's the best way for you, just in your own uh just your own behavior. Like, here's the way to best get the results that you want, from like showing up on time to coming prepared. And the thing is, most women aren't prepared because they have no idea what to ask for, and so by the time their appointment's done, they feel like I didn't get out, nearly what I thought I was going to. No one answered my questions, and then they end up circling back to me in terms of how to get it done.
How do most people who are like, that's one group of women. Then you have the group of women who are very savvy, who are following everybody on Instagram, who know who's who. How are they all getting their information? And is it like accurate?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that unfortunately, I feel like a lot of women, my friends included, they get a lot of their information from Instagram or TikTok. And I think that, I when I first started this page a long time ago, I remember there were some injectors online that I followed, and they were like entertaining to watch or whatever, but they were all lips and cheeks injectors, right? And because companies, filler companies, train people on lips and cheeks, right? So they come down and they say, we fill lips, we fill cheeks, this is our new filler. And so, there were all these injectors out there that were being trained on lips and cheeks. And so you had all these women out there that had these enormous lips and cheeks, right? And I remember when I started my page, and I felt like I was one of the early voices out there saying, like, you're going to inject her. I'm a big go to your derm for an injection, and I catch a lot of heat from the nurse practitioner community and a lot from the PA community, and I find that they're valuable cogs in the medical system. Personally, for me, I always say that I want to, the person I want touching my face is the one that went to medical school and residency and had clinic and fellowships and decades of patient, in front of patients. But I think a lot of women, the savvy ones that I come across the most aren't necessarily savvy in what actually works. They're savvy in what is actually trendy. And so there's a new laser out that two people asked me about yesterday, and it's called the Muriel laser. And I asked Patrick, and he shrugged his shoulders, and he's like, I'm not going to become a laser expert about every laser. He's like, there's a new one every week, and a lot of them are bullshit. And he's like, so I'm just, I forwarded my question on to a dermatologist in Boston who is a laser expert on it. And even she was just kind of like, it's early days and I don't really know much about that. But the women that are reaching out to me about this laser or this cream that they read about, have learned about it from somebody who is inevitably getting paid to promote it and they don't catch it, and they look at these women and they're like, well, she's 35 or she's 30 or she's 25 and she has beautiful skin and she says this is what did it for them. And or the celebrities say this is what did it for them. And I always want to say in reality, these are the young girls that have beautiful skin regardless. You work on a lot of them, right? Like there's a difference between a 25-year-old whose makeup you're doing, right? And someone like me.
There's also a difference between someone whose part of their job may be to look good on a red carpet and to have a trainer and to do all of the things, and they can devote, like I'm saying, versus a woman who might have, two kids and a job and like it's just a different expectation that a lot of my clients have the best things at their fingertips. So to compare yourself to a celebrity
But
often
people
is
do it
like
all
setting
day.
yourself up for failure.
Well, they do it all day, and they're like, "How come?" The one that I get asked about still to this day, forever, is J Lo. Like, why does she look like that? I'm like, she doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, like
Yeah.
she doesn't look like that. But like, what does she do? And what does she do that I'm not doing? And I'm like, well, first of all, she's worth $500 million. So let's start there. So
I
like,
just worked with a comedian, Nikki Glazer, who was like, people
I
are
love
like,
her.
wow, you just had a glow up. And she's like, yeah, I have money now. And
Right.
she's like, I have money. That's what, when you get money, you can glow up. And everybody acts like, what are you doing? Like, did you just eat more olive oil? And she's like, no, I have a doctor.
Right. Well, and I also think that I don't I if I could work on anything with women, I feel like sometimes it's, well, why won't celebrities just tell us what they're doing? They should just tell us what they're doing. I'm like, well, they don't owe you anything. They're not going to just tell you. Like, they're going to say it's olive oil and lemon water and 8 hours of
Hmm.
sleep and whatever, because it's their job to look like that. So if they told you exactly what they went through in order to look like that, they will become the most unrelatable human being on the planet, and they will lose you as a fan in the sense that you're going to shrug your shoulders and throw your hand in the air and go, well, I could never get there. So they try to be approachable in ways that, like, look at these things that I do, you can do them too.
But you
And
know what they're doing. And this
I
is
know a
what I
lot of
think
what
is
they're
very,
doing.
you do. I mean, I know from knowing you that you are on the cutting edge of what people are doing, what's bullshit. And like, you know what the celebrities are doing to look better. I mean, in the last, I don't know, year and a half, I don't know how many celebrities over the age of 45 have gotten like a deep plane facelift. It's
Right.
changed the game. And I think people are not doing filler as much. Everybody's just kind of looking amazing and younger because of the
I'm not doing filler
technology.
as much.
Mm,
I'm a big filler fan. I mean, I think filler gets a bad rap because of the lips and cheeks thing, right?
well, because you only see the bad filler.
Right. So, but I always tell when I'm on consult with people, they're like, I'm scared of filler. I'm scared of filler. And I'm like, well, my entire jaw is filler. My chin, my jawline, it's all filler. My temples are filler. And I have filler in my lips. What I don't have is a bunch of mid-face filler. And I think that's the hang up. And that's where filler gets a bad name. And even more so, like, I think you and I were talking, I can't remember who it was, but I sent you a picture of someone and their face was like this big. And it wasn't even filler, it was a fat transfer.
Yeah, will you explain to people? Because I've tried to parrot what you told me about that. I had never really understood it. What is a fat transfer?
So, a fat transfer is when you pull fat from your abdomen or, the backs of your arms, your inner thighs, whatever, and you inject it back into your face. And unlike, filler, which has a tendency to migrate, right? So when people talk about, filler, and it migrates on everyone. I try to tell women, like, they're like, well, I'm going to get lip filler, but I don't want it to migrate. I'm like, well, it's going to. It migrates around your eyes and it migrates around your mouth because your eyes and your mouth you wrinkle this way, right? Like a camera shutter. And so it definitely pushes that filler around, your eyes and your mouth. So it's always going to migrate on people. Fat tends to not migrate. It needs its own blood supply. But you don't retain as much fat. So Patrick will always say you retain about 40 or 50% of the fat that's injected into you. Your body's going to absorb the rest of it. So a lot of times when you see these women, Madonna should come to mind. Remember at the VMAs, her face
Yeah.
was like the size of Texas, and people
And
are like,
she said that was just the wide angle lens or something. Yeah.
sure, yeah, of course. The wide angle lens, like, sure. Because they're not going to admit, hey, I had the fat pulled out of my ass and shoved into my face, right? Because again, you cease to be a relatable human being. And not that celebs are aiming to be relatable, or Madonna
No.
certainly isn't, but there's definitely some celebrities out there who want to be the every woman, right? Who
Right.
want you to believe that you could be just like me if only you drank this drink,
Right.
right? And it's
But
like,
how do you know when you inject? Because I've seen the moon phase thing. It's not subtle. It's really like a lot. How do you know where it's going to dissolve and come
you
back to giving you shape?
You don't. You don't. You hope that your doctor who's injecting you knows, how much
Because the
volume.
person I saw who had it then had beautiful contours. It wasn't like all over fat, but during the process was like all over fat.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She was one. Madonna was one who she
Yeah.
looked terrifying, and then, 6 months, a year later, she looked pretty normal, and I can't think of any other celebs, but there's been a
Oh.
few.
Do
Well,
you think
Madonna's gonna look as I mean,
do you think that it's worth it?
yes.
Because I was looking at it like, how long do you have to go out looking like that to then, how long do you get the result for having a fuller, more youthful face?
So I've never had a fat transfer done to my face. I think when I get my first facelift, my first, which I'm sure will be my first of a couple in life, I'll probably do a fat transfer at that point, and it'll probably be
At the same time.
yeah, yeah. They harvest the fat from somewhere in your body and they inject it in your face while you're down, and you sort of peel from all of it at once. Uh, I think I know that the length of time in which you retain the fat is going to vary per person. I've had some friends that have had some fat transfers to their faces before, and some of them look amazing years and years and years later. I had a fat transfer from my inner thighs to my breasts a couple of years
Oh,
ago. And I'll tell you, like, as if you gain or lose weight, that will also grow and
because
shrink
it's
over
real.
time. And I think my chest was probably, wasn't overfilled, but they put more than what you're going to ultimately need there because your body's going to absorb a certain amount of it. So you don't know what, I always tell people, like, I would have the expectation that your face is going to be a little bit fuller than what you probably bargained for in the beginning. Um, but I
But
think
Melissa,
ultimately,
why would you put your own fat in your breasts as opposed to just putting a synthetic, I don't know what they use
you
now,
gotta get a plastic
saline or
surgeon. You gotta get a plastic surgeon on here.
yeah. No, but you personally, like why
I,
would you
couple of reasons. One, I don't love the look of an implant.
okay.
Just personally speaking for me, I wanted just something like, I'm small and I wanted something just small and little, and um I just didn't just the idea of just putting an implant, like, it's fine for other people. I have plenty of friends that have implants, but just for me, I just I remember my best friend saying to me, "You realize that if you put in implants and they don't go with your outfit, you can't take them out." And I'm like, "Right, yeah, I can't. Okay, so that's
That's
probably
such a
not."
good point. If you really love clothes.
If you really love clothes, you can't, and they
Yeah.
don't match your outfit, you're kind of stuck with them. And, you know, not that I do anything, or do I advocate women do anything because their husband likes it or because their husband doesn't like it, but Patrick absolutely hates implants. Like, that is not an aesthetic that is something that he's ever been attracted to.
Well, I think it matters if it's
Well,
somebody
his
you're with.
opinions, therefore he'll come up with 1,000 reasons not to do it, right?
Okay.
So he'll be like, "Well, but have you considered this?" And you're like, "No," but he's coming from a place of like, "No." Like, ew.
So you are the opposite of not relatable because you put it, you don't have to tell everybody what you're doing, and you do, and you choose to put it out there. Do you ever feel like, oh, you know what? This time I'm just going to keep this for me. It'd be nice if people just thought I looked like this.
It's such a lie, though. I mean, come on. With my tummy tuck, I did a little bit of that because I do, I've 21,000 and change in followers, and so on any given day, I can get, you probably do too, hundreds of DMs, and I
No, I have to tell you that your 21,000 followers is like someone else having, I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, like hundreds of thousands of followers
they
or
are the
more.
most engaged
They're
group of
the most
people.
engaged
They're awesome.
people in the world. And so a lot of
They
people
really
have
are.
followers, but they're not actually engaged, but yours are very engaged. But go ahead.
Yeah, they notice like if I have a different, ring on my finger, they're like, is that new? And I'm like, no. Or like one called me out the other day and was like, "Are you sick?" And I was like, no.
No, thank you.
So but they're all great. I'm lucky I don't deal a lot in trolls or anything like that. So they're all pretty engaged. But what were we saying?
So you put it all out there. You
I
were
do.
starting to say that you recently you
I
were
added subscribers to my page. And the reason why I did that was not because, you know, it, it's not a financial, it's not a revenue stream that's worth, that's really anything, but it allows me to answer the people's questions who really want to be there. And like I can't get to 200 or 250 people a day who, are like, "Hey, what's your favorite vitamin C?" Or like, "Hey, quick question about, fill in the blank." There had to be a way where I could sort of separate the
and it's a
people who,
nominal fee.
it's like $2 or something.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
figure I'm like, so it's like $24 or maybe it's $3, I can't remember. But like I'm going to save you $30 a year and what you're not going to purchase by my being sort of your pocket best friend and you being able to like DM me. Like I get DMs from people that are in their derm's office going, "I'm standing here like, should I buy any of this?" And I'm like, I mean, you can, but no.
I was going to DM you the other day, but someone asked me which estrogen cream they should get, and I had two of them in mind, and I was like, I'm going to ask Melissa because she will know. She will have an opinion.
I
She will
do.
say, get this one or get
I
this
do.
one, and I would totally like, depending on what you would recommend, I would tell them. I said either get them. I don't know how to say
My
anything.
alloy.
My alloy, or
Yeah.
is it muesli like a
Yeah.
cereal? Yeah, and
Muesli
I was
should
like,
pay
either
me.
of those are really good. You know, as a gay male, middle-aged gay male, that's the estrogen cream that I recommend for women who are perimenopausal.
You know what?
Um,
We're glad to have you as an advocate.
I think it's just from you and Ellen, Dr. Gendler, talking about it. And I work with women. Like that's who I am in their face all the time. And we're talking about skincare and everything. And I'm like, well, look into it. I mean, I'll just say, look into this, follow them. I think I probably told about 30 different people to follow your page.
I get a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, I met you through Quinn. Oh my
That's so
gosh,
funny.
Quinn told me to follow
So
you."
tell me about, because I know that you put it on social media that you're in kind of the later recovery of tummy tuck.
I am. I
What
had a
can you
tummy.
tell us?
I had a tummy tuck. Wait, let me look at the date. I had a tummy tuck 1 month and 1 day ago, so October 11th.
Wow.
So the journey's been a long one. Um, can I tell a really? I'll tell a really embarrassing story. I was in so my son's 23 years old, and he was like this gigantic baby, and so for 23 years I've had like a bunch of loose skin around my abdomen and some stretch marks and whatever else. And I was I was offered to do, you're gonna know this person. I was offered to do something down here called Florida Bra, which is a charity celebrating, breast cancer survivors, and they raise money for all of that. And it's actually founded by Suma Maddox, who was my surgeon for my tummy tuck. And she had paired me with an artist in New York City, a guy by the name of Jonathan Bank, whom I think I've introduced you to. And he was supposed to make my art piece for Florida Bra. And I was really excited. And so I go to New York and they like dump all this liquid rubber on me, which liquid rubber weighs so much. So I have to say this at first, like I had debated a tummy tuck for years and I was like, no, it's gonna hurt. There's a scar. I'm scared. It's fine. It's whatever. I'll be fine. And the process of making this piece for Florida Bra, they dumped like 2 or 3 layers of like this liquid rubber, and you're standing up straight. And so as it dries and gravity starts to kick in, right? And so everything, like pools downwards.
And you're
But
naked
yeah,
under the liquid. Yeah.
yeah. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was like, this is so much fun. So nice to meet you. Have a great day. And I don't know, if weeks or months later, he sends me the first mold of the piece that he's making for me to wear. And all the skin on my stomach had been weighed down and had like pooled at the bottom of this piece. And I'm a small girl. Like, I mean, I'm tall, but I'm a really thin girl. And I was I was on the treadmill at the gym. I started crying. And I can't remember if I called him or I texted him. I'm like, I'm not wearing that. Like, I don't look like that. Like, I know I need something done here, but like, I don't look like that. Like, imagine like weighing all the skin in your face down and then someone casting
It's
a
like when you
mold.
do you probably don't do them, but a mud mask and it dries, and then you look like Skeletor in the mirror, and you're like, oh, but
And
let
I
me do
like,
that on a public level.
and he's an artist and and a surgeon and a great one at that, but like he had this piece like sitting on a table and there's like me and all my loose skin around my stomach like just pooled at the bottom, and I completely freaked out and I called Suma and I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be in your
Because one of
charity.
your best friends happens to be a doctor specializing in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was, and she was the owner of the charity. I'm like, I had told him, I'm like, you have to fix that. Like, I don't look like that. But it really was that moment. He must have thought I was insane.
How long ago was this?
So I would have met him like 6 months prior to last year's Florida Bra. So I don't know, like April of 23.
Okay.
And he would have sent those photos a month after maybe. And like I sent them to all my friends. Like it was the most humbling experience of probably my life in terms of like seeing what your body could look like in a negative way. And it was like that moment where I was like, so apparently all of that loose skin can leave now. And so we're gonna figure out a way in a time where it works in my life to have that surgery, which was a month ago. And Dr. Maddox did it. And, you know, I had
Can I
probably
ask a
these,
question? What are they doing when they're doing a tummy tuck?
they, I was Suma. I'll actually tell. I mean, it's fine with me. I'm happy to have her send you the video. Um, they perform a cut here and they sort of separate your skin and they lift it up. And she sent me all the video of my own surgery. And there's, a gap going down your abdomen where the skin has separated from having children. And they sew it
Okay.
back up like a corset. Your muscle has separated
Right.
here. And so they go back in and they sew it back up like a corset. And then they pull the skin down and up, and then they sew it back together and cut off whatever's excess. And in my case, it was like kind of the shape of a football and kind of the size of a football. If you like were to just trace the outline of a football, it was sort of that piece of skin that came off of me.
Well, where was it when you were looking at you? On the inside?
So it, so I mean, it was sort of like loose skin. No, it was like excess loose skin. So it was
I
like loose
see.
skin starting from here and kind of going to your pubic bone. And as she pulled down, the excess, and she made a new hole to poke my new belly button or to poke my belly button back through. They have to cut off, like, think of like, trimming something like that. You cut off the excess and
It's like
then
a circumcision.
sure. I wouldn't know. But
So what about the scars? Because I've heard that someone the other day was saying that they would do it, but then the scars are kind of gnarly.
um, you know, I don't scar well. I don't feel like I'm one of those people that scars well. Like I feel like I have, I it takes a long time for scars on me to heal, and I feel like I don't scar well. And I don't know that that's actually true or just a belief system that I had. The scar was one of the biggest things that that scared me off from probably doing this, is that you have a hip to hip incision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my incision is from here to here on me, and mine's pretty low. It sits like underneath like my bikini, which is also important, like the scar placement, right? And it's probably, I don't have a pen, but it's probably the width of like a marker, like a thin marker from
Hmm.
here to here. There's so much that can be done today in terms of mitigation for scars that
So they're
this,
better than they used to be.
well, I think that the way that surgeons, like in the olden days, they would staple people up, right? And so these scars were huge, and like there were these, and I don't know that, I think the technology's advanced and doctor skill sets and their knowledge on how to treat scars. And again, I'm not an expert on scars, has advanced so far that like women today that have had tummy tucks, if you even look at women 10 years ago who had a tummy tuck, that scar is a very different story.
Hmm.
And for me, I tried to show my I tried to show mine on Instagram just to be like, hey guys, this is what this looks like. And Instagram kept flagging me because it reads as self-harm. Like any
Oh,
incision reads as self-harm. So they kept flagging the post and they wouldn't let me do it. But it's super thin
you're like, no, this
and
is self-improvement.
like, right, self-improvement,
Yeah.
self-harm. So like my body, wasn't aware that this was happening, but this was planned. Um, but I go in November 21st to V-beam it, which is a laser that it's a pulse dye laser that is meant for red. And so you can microneedle them now, you can V-beam them. There's, I have, you know, tape, scar tape on my incisions now that'll stay on for like the next 6 months. So there's so much that you can do to where that scar becomes imperceptible these days, that the scar is no longer the reason, I would say, to not do a tummy tuck. Like I get, having a 2-year-old and having to pick that child up, that would be trying. You can't do it for 6 weeks. But the scar itself, there's so much that can be done for it that it wouldn't be the reason that I would tell someone to back off of it.
What was the hardest part of it?
The compression garment. You have to wear a compression garment 24 hours a day for
And
a month.
wow. Were you in pain?
No. I had the procedure on a Friday morning. I spent the night at the surgical center. I came home Saturday morning. By Sunday evening, I was off of painkillers. And
Wow.
I bought a device. There's a doctor out there, Dr. Jonathan Bank, who makes this very cool device. I wish I had it in front of me. I can go get it. But who makes this very cool device for post mastectomy patients, right? It's this like flat vibrator, right? So it's about this big and it's flat and it vibrates on different settings. And I don't like to be on painkillers. And the protocol nowadays is called ERAs, like ease of recovery after surgery. And so there's this whole protocol in place now in order to get patients off of painkillers, get them
So
up
you're
and
not
moving.
addicted to Oxycontin.
Well, and also because nobody wants to be stuck in a compression garment that's two sizes too small and they can't breathe and they're constipated from being on, exactly, like being on painkillers for days on end. They can't use the bathroom. They're sluggish. They just turn into these like they like move into their couches. And so the protocol nowadays is to try to get the patient off of painkillers as fast as possible and get them moving. The more you're moving, the more blood flow, the more, the your muscle still has to recover. You are obviously sidelined for a good 2 weeks, but you should, the faster you can get up and going. So he created this device that I purchased and he uses it for, it's flat and it fits into women's bras for who are dealing with like post mastectomy pain or nerve pain or numbness or all those things. And I was like, I realized that the incision is, like this on me and it's just this little device. But starting that Sunday night, I was like, I'm not taking another painkiller. I'll take like Toradol, which is a non-opiate. And I just would stick it inside my compression garment and turn it on. And the vibrating effect sort of had this systemic ability to kind of just stop the pain. And
Wow.
it was genius. And
So
I've
you
told it,
repurposed it. It wasn't made for that necessarily.
no, I mean, it was made for pain. I think, it definitely fits like in a bra easier, and there was like a little app on your phone that you could control the whole thing by. So by Monday
Kinky.
morning, yeah, by Monday morning, I had a friend that was like, I too own a vibrator that someone can control by an app. I was
Oh.
like, oh my God, it's not that kind of vibrator. But, but I mean, I suppose one could use their vibrator if they really wanted to, but it sort of had this great ability to mitigate the pain. and to
Nice.
take your mind off of it. And so you could get up and moving and be more present and be more active within your recovery. And that's the
Is
whole
it
point of them.
true? Is it true that you have to have your be bent over for like a part of the recovery?
Yeah.
That to me sounded the most claustrophobic. That's why I'm not doing a tummy tuck.
Oh
Um,
my God.
being bent over. What is that about?
So I so the skin is pulled really tight, right? So they pulled the skin this way on me and they pulled the skin from top down and bottom up. Uh, and so it's tight. So in the muscle repair that's been done, I don't know that how much of my being bent over had to do with the muscle repair and not being able to stretch these muscles, or if it had to do with the skin being pulled tight and not being able to like feel like you can stand up straight. My thought says it's probably a little bit of both. Uh, but yeah, I was hunched over. I was hunched over like a little old woman for
But I heard that about everyone, not just not I didn't know that about you. I just heard that everyone you're hunched over.
everyone. Yeah, yeah. I think it depends greatly on. I said this to everyone: the better shape you're in going into this, and I am arguably a gym rat, and I am arguably, kind of crazy about diet in a lot of ways. The healthier you are and the stronger you are going into this, the easier your recovery is going to be. So I was standing up straight by the end of week one. Most women, yeah, most women, it takes they're 2 weeks in or a little bit longer before they're really like able to do this instead of this.
So you're literally like hunched over in bed.
I said that I was like a cat. I felt like a cat. Like, you know how cats like curl up and they're very protective of
Yeah,
their stomachs.
I see.
And like that's how I felt. I felt like I was like this little cat who, no one could touch me, no one could, because everything you feel very protective of that area. Having said that, it's a week,
Hmm. Melissa, did you ever think, what the fuck did I do? Not in
I don't
recovery
think
when
that
you're
about
like
anything.
depressed. Okay.
I don't think that about anything usually. I didn't have that. I had a bad day. I think I had one really bad day in there, um, where I had that moment, um, where I was just like, I'm really swollen. I'm really uncomfortable. I don't, everyone says this is, it's super temporary, but it doesn't feel temporary today. Today it feels like this is how I'm going to feel forever.
I mean, I get a
And
cold and I imagine that I might have it for the rest of my life and how horrible that would be.
I remember looking at Patrick and going, what if this is just me now? And he's like, it's not. And I'm like, but what if it is? And he's like, but it's not. And I was like, he wouldn't even humor. I'm like, but humor me. What if I? And he's like, but it's not. He
How
was
did
like,
he
this is,
feel about you having the procedure?
um, I, he was always super supportive. He, he deals with women on a daily basis, right? And he refers women to tummy tucks on a daily basis. So
Mm.
women will come in to see him and they'll want to do something like soft wave, or they'll ask about hyperdiluted radius or something like that, for the loose skin on their stomachs. And so Patrick's really supportive because it's part of his job, right? Is to send women, like this is what I can do for you, but beyond that, you're a surgical candidate. And one of the greatest things about him as a physician is that he knows when to send people onward. And there's a lot of dermatologists out there that I see that I come in contact with, or, followers of mine or consults of mine, they come in contact with, that the derm will do anything to keep them in office. Loose skin, let's just do some, Morpheus, and, we'll try 10 different things. And they just want to keep them in office. Patrick's the first one to say, I can only help you to this point. And then after that, I'm going to send you, go see Dr. Maddox, or go see, any other number of the qualified
It's
surgeons down
better
here.
because then if you can't deliver, they're going to be mad with you
And then
afterwards.
they leave the practice. So the
Right.
fear is that if you send a patient out, they won't come back, right? And I think that's a fear with a lot of derms, is that if we send, I talked to somebody yesterday who was getting a breast lift and a tummy tuck, and she said she doesn't live in New Orleans, but she said, my dermatologist said not to do it. They didn't think it was a good idea. And I was like, why? Like, what are they offering in replacement, right? And I think the fear is for some doctors is that they'll send a patient out to a plastic surgeon and that patient doesn't return to practice. And I've always said, Patrick's always said, every single patient comes back. They're so grateful that you were just honest and said, this is the limit as to what we can do for you here. They always come back.
I can say just even from my industry too, that type of kind of safeguarding guarding and that limited kind of mentality, that's how you lose people. Not even
Yeah.
if you give them bad things, but it's once you kind of go, I'm going to work with who I'm meant to work with. The people who want to work with me are going to appreciate what I do, and people who don't should work with other people.
Yeah.
I just think you let out a whole different vibe, and it's like, or at least you're happier because you're that desperation of trying to keep everybody. That is like, it makes you sick.
Well, and I think ultimately you end up doing the wrong thing for the patient, right? Like, what is the best thing for this patient in this situation? It is not, Morpheus 8 on your face. It is go get a facelift and come back. Because,
Hmm.
patients that leave for facelifts, they're still going to need Botox in the long run. They're still going to want peels. They're still going to want lasers. They're still going to want all of those things. But, if you keep them in practice, promising them some result that you can't deliver on. Ultimately, they get the surgery they needed anyway, and when they return to a derm, they don't return back to you.
Yeah, because they've
And
lost your trust. They've
well, and I
lost
feel
trust.
like I see that a lot in patients and followers who feel sold incorrectly from their derm, where my big thing is you need to wake up in the morning, you need a vitamin C, you need a European sunscreen, you need a moisturizer if you need a moisturizer. In the evening, you need retin A. Whatever else you want to do on top, if you're over 40, you need an estrogen cream. Um, Patients will go, or followers, they're not, I don't have patients, but followers of mine will go see their doctor and they'll ask for a prescription of retin A and they'll be told no. And they'll be offered $150 over the counter retinol cream instead. And when this little tube, depending on your insurance, is like $7 and it's more effective. And so I see a lot, especially lately. And when I see this as a growing trend in the industry, more and more doctors are backing off of, that sort of plan. It's like, fine, here's your retin A. If it's too strong, come back and see me. We can dial it back some. But um, patients are getting savvier about what really does work and what really doesn't work, and where they're being oversold. Like, does anyone need a neck cream? No. Like, no one needs a neck cream, no one needs an eye cream, and no one certainly needs, like, a $150 neck cream or eye cream,
Well,
and
that's because the neck is to what I've been saying lately is that the neck is what's actually going to get you into that plastic surgeon's office, not your face. The neck is what goes first and what really bothers women,
Nora
men
Ephron said
too.
it, right? Like, it's all about the neck, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
this, people start to get, and I
So
think you're right. I
a
think,
cream that targets that because it's going to play into that thing that people want.
and it keeps them
There
in
a lot of
office,
people are like, I just hate my neck. If I could get my neck fixed, I would be okay with X, Y, and Z.
right?
You know.
And I tell women all day long, like obviously sunscreen is going to prevent, but we can't, a time machine is going to be the most helpful thing that we can use for our faces, right? And we don't have one. And so, you can work in prevention and then you can work in early intervention. And I'm a big early interventionist. If you if you are a candidate for a blepharoplasty and you can afford it and you can take the time off work, go do it. Because your skin's gonna heal faster. The younger you are, the better you're gonna heal. The more the skin's gonna retract, the better you're gonna scar. And the longer you get to enjoy it. Like, I don't want to wait until I'm 60 to have a facelift and between now and 60 do nothing but bitch about how much I hate my face.
So you're a proponent for doing it when you're younger and healthier because you get a better result also.
You get a better result, and you know there used to be like an old adage of like no facelifts before 50, right? And of anybody, 40 somethings are going in for facelifts now
They're
because
really
they're
good now.
they're really good. And the scars, and again, those scars that people had, you can treat those scars so much better now to where it's sort of those imperceptible did she or didn't she facelifts, right? And I think the techniques have it used to be just the skin facelifts where we would call it like the New York facelift, where it was just like the wind blown, looked like someone
Hmm.
gathered all their skin behind their head and put it in a
I'm still
ponytail.
gonna get that one. I want the old school one, but the new ones are great.
The wind blown.
I want the Barry Manilow.
That actually, I don't know that his bothered me as much. There's a few out there. I was talking with someone today about like the Kenny Rogers, or the Renee Zellweger upper bluff, where their eyes just, totally turned into these sort of hollow globes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I did a brow lift when I had zero surgeries in my entire life until I hit 40. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, we're going to do a bluff because I'm a candidate. We're going to do a brow lift because I've become a candidate for it.
So the
And
brow lift is so that you don't even necessarily have to cut skin around the eye or because you can lift it, or do they do both?
um, so I did both. So brow lift, like an endoscopic brow lift, they cut here and here. And I'm gonna get this wrong, so you're gonna need someone to correct me. They cut and it releases the brow back to like a different position. So as we get older, our brows get heavier,
Mhm.
and Botox to me makes that situation a lot worse. Like there's a moment with Botox where you're in your 30s and Botox lifts your brow and your forehead's smooth and your brow is lifted. And then you cross like this line into this world of like, you can't have a smooth forehead and a lifted brow at the same time. You end up with like that Wi-Fi signal right here. And then and the minute you get there where you can't have a lifted brow and a smooth brow, it usually tells me that it's probably time for you to talk to someone about a brow lift.
And then it also gets heavy. I've
Yeah.
noticed if people get too much Botox, they actually may not even need an eye job, but it's just so heavy that it's pulling the skin down.
Yeah. And some people find that like with a brow lift that the skin on their upper eyes smooths out and they don't need an upper bluff. And some people like me found that, I had an upper bluff and I still had this pretty heavy brow. And so I was a candidate for both. But younger and younger, I'm seeing people go in and they're happier for it. Like they're not waiting until, I think a lot of times with body work, it's a little bit different. Like women wait until their kids are a little bit grown and, where they can take a week or two off and they don't have to worry about carpool or they don't have to worry about, certain things. But with face stuff, the recovery time is so fast now. Like I
Like,
use,
what's the recovery time for a facelift in general?
depends. That totally depends on the type of facelift that's done and
Uh-huh.
the patient. Like so there are swellers and bruisers in the world. I can say for, my brow lift, Christian Jacob, who did mine, and who also did my eyes, had said to me, it's going to be like 7 or 8 days before you're restaurant ready. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And it's, a throwback term from his old mentor at that, you know, in 7 or 8 days, you'll be able to go out to dinner in a dimly lit restaurant and you'll know that you had something done, but because it's sort of dimly lit, no one else will be able to really tell.
That's not
Um,
long.
so, 7 or 8 days on a brow lift, probably the same on an upper bluff. I mean, my upper bluff, I had the stitches out at 5 days. I was good to go. A facelift's going to be longer. It's probably 2 weeks, probably before there's probably more swelling that goes on with the facelift. But again,
Is the theme in that world now? Because for a while it was like just do lower, and then it kind of this piecemeal to have a more natural appearance than being taught all at once. But now is it kind of like just go for it and do the deep plane and get it all
I
done?
always tell people do what you're a candidate for, right? So we don't want to push any boundaries or force anything that we're not candidates for because I think that's where women start to look sort of
It's a great
strange.
point.
Um, you know, I- in terms of like, what type of facelift to do, if you're going to a reputable surgeon and you're going to someone who knows what they're doing, they're not going to sell you on a facelift that you're not a candidate for, and they shouldn't sell you on a facelift at all if you're not one. When I was 39, I'll tell you this one story. I went to go get. I was freaking out about turning 40, and I made an appointment with Dr. Jacob, and he has this like his home is or his office is in this huge Victorian home on St. Charles Avenue here. It's like everything you would think, this like grand
In New
southern.
Orleans.
Yes, in New Orleans. Sorry. And he's sort of exactly what you would think would be the doctor there, right? He's kind of this like princely, person. And he walks in and his office is in this old grand room with like the long table and the crown moldings and all that. And he walks in and he sees me. And he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm turning 40. I need a facelift. Like, it's all this, right? This is all the problems. And he had said to me, he's like, yeah, 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 sure, sure. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, let's do it. He's like, where do you want the incision? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I want the incision like back here, like this is where you put him. And he's like, well, you have to have enough skin to pull back, right? Without stretching your mouth out and to cut the excess skin off and to create an incision and bury that incision somewhere where it's going to heal well without you, looking insane. He's like, so if you want the incision to be right here,
Uh-huh.
we can cut your face open and we can do a facelift for you. And he's like, otherwise, he's like, you're not a candidate for it. And he said, but I'll tell you what, you can keep shopping until you get a yes. He's like, if you want one that badly, you can shop around until some doctor gives you a yes. And he's like, it's not going to be me though. And so, he's a physician and a surgeon that I trust. And if he says no, it's no. But I see it all the time with women who they get a no. They'll get a no from Patrick, even, can I have more lip filler? No. And then you'll see them 2 weeks down the road where someone told them, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Or it's
Or
the,
I guess they get the wide mouth. I never realized why some women have that wider mouth. It's because they didn't have enough skin to pull.
yeah, or,
Yeah.
and they shop for a yes.
So what about the inevitably someone's listening to this podcast and it's going to make them sad that people go out and want to change things and not have a laissez-faire attitude about aging, and that why can't we just accept aging as we are? What do you say to that?
Well, I think they should. I think that, if I don't really know what to say to that. Like, if
But
they
you've
don't,
heard this, right? You know what I mean.
I do. The term aging gracefully has been sort of hijacked by that community, right? Like, oh, I'm going to age gracefully. I'm not going to do all that. And I think that's awesome. I think they should. I think that they should age exactly how they want. And if it makes them sad, that someone like me or someone on the street that they see didn't age the way that they think they should, that's really not my problem.
Mm,
Like, I'm going to do what's best for me within the confines of what I'm comfortable with, what my budget allows for me to do, what my time budget allows for me to do, and and honestly, sort of what my threshold for recovery allows me to do. I can promise you, I've said this 1,000 times, if anyone hears me say I'm having any surgery, maybe ever again, at least until I get a facelift one day, I want you to throw me, like, I want you to tie me up. Like, I am done. Like, there's only so much recovery someone can take before, they sort of hit
you look
that.
back and you go, of the 80 years I was on Earth, 5 of them I was in recovery. So I'm actually 75.
Right? Like, of the 45 years on Earth, I have spent, I'm not kidding, I think 7 months solid in a compression garment.
Wow.
And but I don't know. I mean, in my experience, and this is going to be kind of unpopular, I'm sure, a lot of the people who take that position in life, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you, why can't you just accept the process? It's usually a couple of things that drive that comment. And one is often they're just scared to do it, right? So what people judge what they don't understand. And if you don't understand the process, it's easier to just judge someone for doing it, right? Two, financially, it's not affordable for them. So I might judge people with a private plane because I can't afford to buy one. So, like, why would they do
Hmm.
that? Why is their carbon footprint so big? Meanwhile, I couldn't afford, that carbon footprint question doesn't even come into play for me. Three,
I'm sorry.
what, that I can't buy a plane?
Hmm.
Me too. Three, they don't have the familial support at home or within, like, their social circle, right? So, you know, a lot of women I talk to are like, well, my husband's not cool with it. Well, cool. Tell your husband not to have any plastic surgery then. But they don't have the support at home for someone to say, hey, I'm going to pick up the kids, or I'm going to go to the grocery store, or I'm going to do the heavy lifting for you so you have a minute to yourself to recover from this. A lot of women don't have that.
What about people who think that there's nothing good in vanity? I'm vain, so I'm asking you this as somebody who I'm vain. I actually think there's a lot of value in vanity because it makes me work out and it makes me try harder in other areas where I'm like,
Sure.
if I wasn't vain, I would be 500 pounds sitting on the couch eating the worst food and it would be unhealthy. And that's a fact.
So I used to smoke. I smoked for 22 years and I was like really good at it. And it was like my longest relationship and probably my happy. Not that I'm in an unhappy one, but we got along really well. And I remember Patrick saying to me, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 37 or so. And I remember he said to me, at some point, what you're doing to your face, I'm not going to be able to fix. And that was enough. That was it. No, it was it. I was like immediately like, because I lived in the world where, I had a wrinkle, he would, we would use Botox. If I had a pimple, he would inject it. But what do you mean you can't fix this? And he said, you can't fix what you're doing at some point. Like you'll turn a corner and this is just how you're going to look going forward. And so I'm super, I don't know that I would call myself vain. I said this recently, like I have this one body, right? I have this one body and this one face and this one life, and I'm going to do what I feel is best in order to get as much enjoyment out of those three things as possible. So if fixing a heavy brow for me makes me see the world in a happier way, fine. It doesn't, I'm not broken and using plastic surgery to fix some part of me that I'm not willing to look at. I'm just looking at me going, what's the best way to utilize this body of mine, this face of mine, this life of mine while I can? And so, the naysayers, and there's always going to be them. I mean, I'm sure I'm a naysayer in certain arenas too in life, but I usually find that it doesn't come out of a place of genuine concern. And it doesn't come out of a place of like, I genuinely care about what you're doing to yourself. It's more, I don't understand. And like, I
I'm
could
really
never.
judgmental of people's plastic surgery if I feel like it's in bad taste. And I don't know why that is, but if I think that it's gone too far or that it's just not aesthetic to what I think is, it's not
Right.
like it's a line that I've created myself. But that's when I can feel myself being like,
I do it all the time.
yeah. But if
What were
it's
they
in good
thinking?
taste, I'm like, oh my God, that person did the best job. And like, I think it's amazing. So I can be
Well,
judgmental.
and I also think that like the days of really bad plastic surgery, I feel like are starting to come to an end, right? Because there's so much more talent out there in the world. And I think that so many people, I mean, literally, as we are on this podcast right now, a friend of mine in New York just texted me. She just got home because she just had a breast augmentation.
Oh,
Literally, she just texted me home in bed. And I'm like, absolutely go for it. Like really happy to hear that for you. But I think that the bad work, I mean, I see less and less bad work out there. And I see more and more sort of subtle, you know, underdone conservative work
yeah.
done. And so I'm the first one to judge somebody who looks insane. But I think there's also part of me that goes, do they look insane? Are they going to look insane in 6 months though? Is this something, are they just super swollen from something? And Patrick's always really big to remind me that like, fast forward the clock on that, Melissa, what are they actually going to look like from that? And
Good point.
oftentimes, like with Adriana Lima, she's the greatest example. People, I did, lost their minds when they saw her on that red carpet, and she looks in fucking incredible now.
She's the most
Incredible.
beautiful woman in the world.
I mean, Angelina is, but I'll give her.
Oh, right, right, right.
But I mean,
As a brunette.
but yeah, no kidding. But like she looked insane. Like she looked insane, and the whole internet lit up with like, what did she do to herself? And this is why you can't use so much filler. And in reality, and I don't know, I don't treat her. My husband didn't treat her, but I've seen enough patients go through that process to know that like there was a healing process that occurred here from something. So whether it was a facelift and a fat transfer, or a facelift and some filler, or a bleph or a brow lift or something, but she was on some sort of road to recovery when we all saw her and freaked out, because now it's not like she pumped her face full of filler went out on the red carpet, realized that she fucked up, and then had it all dissolved out, perfectly etched. Like that doesn't happen. Like that was the handiwork of some great surgeon somewhere.
Probably Brazil. I'm gonna share. It's funny. People ask me for product recommendations. I'm not somebody who's always. I'll post what people send to me because I feel like it's just um, like good manners. Like someone gives me a gift, I say thank you. But I'm not always like showing what I use. But there are a few things that you told me about that I love, and I'm gonna share them. And then I want to hear what you're loving. First of all, I've been using this for a really, really long time and had a what is it called when you have a recommitment ceremony when you're married? We renewed our
Renewal,
vows
renewal.
because
Oh,
Dr. Gendler uses this, you use it. It's the OG Holy
yeah,
Grail.
it is.
I will say if I'm going, I will wear it in the city and whatever, but especially if I'm going to be like on a bike ride, going to the beach, somewhere where I know it's like super top sun exposure, this to me, for no scientific reason other than that I burn really, really easily, this is the best.
Yeah.
I was going to Paris and you were like, if you can find it, look for it's actually an Australian brand, but they have it in
Oh, the
Sephora in Paris,
ultraviolet stuff.
the ultraviolet. I have to thank you. Love both of them for different reasons, and I need both of them.
That left one, the fluid, the bottle, is
Yeah.
Patrick's favorite sunscreen.
It's so fluid that you have to pour a tiny amount because it will like slide
Yeah,
off of your
yeah.
palm. So people who hate Sanon, les chat, people who hate SPF but
Love that
want
one.
to wear it, this is
Hmm.
great. It's light and it's super fluid. This is an amazing moisturizer that like if you want to put on moisture and get the SPF, the texture, it's just fantastic.
That's the Supreme screen or the clean screen or
This
the,
is Supreme
yeah,
Hydrating
the Supreme
Facial
screen.
Sunscreen.
Yeah.
Love it. I'll put it up on the screen. The other thing I use is I've used this for a really long time. It actually inspired me to do the Sally C primer is 2% beta hydroxy acid from Paula's Choice. I use it when I shave with a razor as
Gotcha.
an aftershave and it makes it's calming. The other thing I love is Revita Brow. I know it's not for the lashes, but for the eyebrow, because men in my family start losing their outer eyebrow, and a lot of men do.
Do you
And I
check their
asked a
thyroid?
derm, well, mine wasn't. I was just like, I don't want it to happen to me. So, so I'll do this on like the outer corner. Love it. And then last, what did I bring? Oh, I just like this, the Color
The
Wow
Color Wow stuff.
thing for like my hair's frizzy and dry, and I really like this. It's super lightweight and it gives your hair sheen. Um, but so those are my picks. I have to thank you for that. What are you really into right now?
Well, I left, I should have brought some makeup items down, but I didn't want to be shamed. So,
No, please.
um, I, I bought my body weight in glitter eyeshadows lately. So
Really?
yeah,
What are
the
you
little,
loving?
so I bought, there's an hourglass, like little pot called, Reflect that I
I'll
use
put it on the screen.
ad nauseum. It's like a little rose gold. I have green eyes, so like, too rosy and I look like a heroin addict, and but it's like the perfect sort of rose gold color. I just bought the Patrick Ta duos that everybody was freaking out about. They're fine. Um, I just bought a palette from Urban Decay that was all the cowboy, the Moonlight Cowboy, the different ones. That was awesome. But I came down with skincare. Well, no, wait, I do have one makeup. So Pat McGrath, what do you think of Pat McGrath?
The woman is legendary, the probably the best makeup artist to ever walk the earth. I love her line. I think it's um for artists and people who love impactful makeup, it's
Yeah,
genius. And she has creative stuff, and I want her line to do well because she actually comes out with things that she believes in that work, and that it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but she's one of the good guys. Like
right.
I really like her brand.
So her lip glosses are the only ones that I really use because I feel like she's the only one that's figured out how to do like a nude beigey lip gloss without it looking like the bad concealer lip glosses of like
Yeah.
the 90s. So I used her one in Dare to Bear and in Peach Perversion,
Ooh.
like I'm a spokesperson and I'm not. Um, so speaking of ultraviolet, I brought down their Queen screen, which it's getting tougher and tougher to get it in the United States now. And as of right now, I actually don't have a source to ship it to the US. Harrods was the last one, and they've cut off shipping to the
And
United
really
States.
quickly, the reason that we like them from every country but the United States is because the FDA hasn't approved these advanced filters that help people from burning. Is that
Correct.
right?
Correct. So we haven't updated our filters since the late 90s. So the US deals with like 30-year-old sunscreen technology. Europe, Asia, Australia, beyond, they classify sunscreen as a cosmetic. We classify it as a drug. So in order to get, all these new filters approved, they would have to, somebody like La Roche-Posay would have to go through clinical trials again. And at the cost of like, sorry, my cat's like really
I love
into.
it.
So La Roche-Posay would have to go through like another clinical trial to get Mexoral 400 approved by the FDA. Couple of things that won't happen because of that. The FDA requires animal testing. Companies like L'Oreal, which owns La Roche-Posay, they don't do animal testing anymore. So they, on that level, they told the FDA to kick rocks. And on another level, their own market research showed that even if they provided a superior sunscreen, it doesn't increase the amount of people that would actually use it. So they'd be spending a lot of money running, new trials for no money.
So it's
Um,
just us freaks who are trying to get it.
Pa- right. So Patrick would tell you that US sunscreen will do a great job at keeping you from getting sunburned. It's good enough to keep you from getting burned if you, go out to the beach and you reapply and you remember to do that. It'll never keep you from getting sun damage. So all the things that you think of when you think of like, problems that we have with the sun, like laxity and wrinkles and sunspots and all the things that go with aging, our sunscreens in the United States aren't strong enough to protect you from that. So we all become these like drug mules of getting European sunscreens here in the States. But the ultraviolet one, this one, I love because it's kind of I guess like it's like a luminizing finish, right? So for
Hmm.
women that don't want to wear sunscreen or don't want to wear makeup and they go to the gym, but they've worked hard on their skin and
Yeah.
they want that kind of look.
But it's tinted, right?
No, that one's not.
Oh,
This one is, they do one that's like a shimmery one and one that's a bronzing one, but this
okay.
one is just like a serum style little dropper
I think
bottle.
I just didn't want the dewy. I think that's why I got the other one.
Yeah, most guys don't want dewy. Like
Yeah.
girls want dewy. And then I sent you, which you should get it in
I'm
a couple of days.
so excited.
I sent poor Ellen Gendler all over Paris trying to find this for me, and she couldn't find it. And then I found it. I found out that they would ship it to me online. This I found out after the fact, after I talked about this, is Mimtique. That, and I said it sort of reminds me of the old La Mer days, right? Like the soft cream from La Mer, their oil control cream. That the founder of this is from La Mer. So
Oh,
I found out after the fact that the founder of this company actually came from La Mer, which is what this cream reminds me of. So this is just a moisturizer, and a moisturizer is just a moisturizer is just a moisturizer, but this one just happens to be a really good one. And then everything else I have is always prescription stuff. It's like the My Alloy cream or the Muesli Rosacea cream or
which you've
Retin
told me,
A.
and I've told friends about the rosacea cream that you said it's actually like
It's great.
amazing.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's one of those things you have to use it every day. And then this is probably, I don't know, I feel like every makeup artist I ever met was in their kit, the Ombriolisse.
Hmm.
This is the moisturizer, when people are like, well, what does Patrick use? He uses this. This is what he
And
uses every night.
what is the finish like that you like about it?
Um, so I always had that argument with Patrick where he's like, it doesn't matter what moisturizer you use. I'm like, but it does. Like women wear makeup. And so if
Right.
they want their makeup to sit nicely over a moisturizer, and some of the Mimtique one that I'm sending you, I think you'll like that finish. It's like a velvet finish. Like there's
Hmm.
nothing, I don't, there's nothing. This to me, um, probably based on where I live is probably a little bit greasier than where you live for sure. And I use this more at night than I do during the day, but it's been used on me as a primer under makeup since the dawn of time, and I always enjoy my makeup when it's used. So
I never
those
used it because I thought it was too greasy.
Try the, well,
but I'm willing to try it.
I have the sensitive one. Get the sensitive
Okay, I'm
one.
gonna try it. But by the way, makeup artists love it. I just always thought that it was too greasy, so therefore I had to use more powder later on, and I didn't want to, to each his own. But
Yeah.
as a moisturizer, I think it's, for a moisturizer, it's good.
So wait, what do you love right now for makeup? Can I ask you?
Oh yeah. Um, I'm really into charcoal and navy eyeliners because I think black will always be amazing, but I think it's a little harsh on a lot of women that you can get the drama and brown.
I
But if
agree.
you don't have rich, warm coloring, you might not want to wear brown. So I'm on the hunt for a perfect charcoal and then like deep slate off black eyeliners. Um,
Did you try the Hermes ones?
no, I haven't yet. Are
They
they
have like
good?
a charcoal brown that was
Oh,
really good. Like it was like a charcoal brown. There, I don't remember if they had a black or a navy. I have the Victoria Beckham navy one. Like
okay.
her stuff is,
Her stuff is good.
her
I
stuff is
like
good.
her line a lot. What else am I using? I get sent so much makeup.
I don't get sent
Um,
almost anything because nobody wants me to review.
my
Nobody
friend
wants me to
Janine
review
has
their
a
stuff.
brand. My friend Janine has a brand called Janine LaBelle. She founded Stila,
Stila,
and then yeah, she
Kitten.
created that. Yeah,
Kitten was so Kitten is the reason why I still have a glitter eyeshadow or a shimmery eyeshadow to this day.
I think she has like a even better version of Kitten. I'm gonna put it
Oh,
on the screen because I said which one of these is Kitten, and she told me the name, but I can't remember my own name. But she has that. She has some really good lip glosses that are like have a lot of color. I also love this brand, and I'm so dyslexic. I know like what it looks like in my mind, but I can't say it. It's like phytogenins. No, it's so embarrassing to be me. These like lip balms that have just the right amount of color. So like you can do a little bit of lip like liner. I just posted them the other day. You can do a little lip pencil and put these in the middle for just enough depth, and it looks really cool. And there's a shade called Brave Break that's like a
ooh.
deep reddish brown, like your lip but better. I really love it. I've actually paid for it myself to get more of them, which I almost never, I try not to pay for makeup anymore.
I buy
Um,
all my own makeup. Nobody,
I pay for like everything else in life. Just,
yeah.
I'm like, this is the one thing I can get free. Um, so yeah. Do you have time for a quick game?
Yep. I
Okay.
don't know.
So,
Wait. What did I agree to?
sorry.
Sure. I was
Oh
like,
no,
sure. And then
it's easy. So what is worse for your skin, cigarettes or lack of sleep?
cigarettes.
What is the best city for cosmetic procedures?
Oh God, I'm gonna get trashed for this. New York.
Best city for shopping?
Uh, Paris, New York. Paris or New York.
What is the best type of facial to get?
None. They don't do
None.
anything.
What is the best laser to get?
Depends on what you need. Everyone's different. So again, you do what you're a candidate for, right? So over, this is generalizing.
Yeah, sure.
If you're over 40 and you're a sun damaged mess, a CO2 resurfacing laser, not, and I always say this to people, Fraxel is a brand, not a type of laser. Because they're like, I'm going to do Fraxel, and they make three different lasers. If you're a candidate for a CO2 resurfacing, that's the best laser. That's the biggest bang for your buck, like a fractionated ablative resurfacing laser. In
And that's
terms of,
major. That's like a week
it's a
of,
week.
yeah,
Yeah,
recovery.
it's a week.
I want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Come down. We'll do. I'll do it.
Uh,
I will do it. I'll
ooh.
do it on me,
Can we
man.
have a CO2 party?
Yep, absolutely.
Which public person, in your opinion, has had the best glow up?
Oh God. Uh, Brad Pitt.
But he was always good looking.
Yeah, but he got a little rough there for a minute.
Okay,
He looks pretty good right now. I
really
don't
good.
know. Glow up. I don't know. Like, give me an example. Give me an example. I can't
Like
even think of.
somebody who looks so good right now that may, just like transformed, you know?
I mean, everyone's going to say Lindsay Lohan, but I think
Yes,
she looks super
but she was
generic
so
now.
beautiful.
I
She
think
was
she looks.
super beautiful when she was younger.
Yeah, I think she looks really generic now. I think she removed all of the features that sort of made her unique. She's beautiful, and her surgeon did a great job. They created a really beautiful woman. I don't know, glow up. I mean, I have the celebrities who I think have the best skin I've ever seen, but I don't know that I thought of like
Well, I guess Kylie Jenner comes to mind if that, at least it was a transformation.
Kendall Jenner.
Kendall Jenner, yes.
Kendall Jenner probably. Haley Bieber. There's one that was, she looks better today
Yeah,
than she
beautiful.
did.
Um, who is a person, this is so bitchy, who is a person you'd like to have admit that they had work done who hasn't?
Uh, Kate Blanchett, maybe. I don't know if she has or not, but I think she has. And Sienna Miller. I think they both have. And you don't live your life that blonde, that blue-eyed, and that fair-haired and make it to that age looking like that. Probably those two.
Yeah, they look really good,
They look
both of
really
them.
good.
Yeah, that's
Charlize
just
Theron
like,
would be another one who you don't get
hmm
to 50 as a blonde hair with green eyes looking like that without some serious intervention.
so they're guilty by just being fabulous. That like you
They're
can't look.
guilty by being blonde hair and light-eyed. So,
What's that
like,
about, the blonde hair, light eye? Do you mean just because you're more susceptible to sun damage?
yeah. So I was always taught that someone like me, who's naturally a blonde with green eyes, fair skin, is going to age sooner and quicker than, say, a brunette friend of mine with brown eyes, right? Like, I'm going to age faster, just like, one of my best friends is Indian. She's never, she's not going to age at all. Um, and the deal is that the fair hair, fair eyed, fair skinned women tend to age sooner, right? The sun damage that they accrued as a child or as a young adult is going to show up sooner on their skin. The benefit of that is because we're so fair, it's fixable and it's easier to address the issues on someone light hair, light eyed, light skin. It's really light skinned. The dark hair, dark eyed, dark skin, when you start talking like olive tones and darker, it takes them much longer to start to age or to look like they're aging. But once they do, it's much harder to fix because
Hmm
they become very limited in the types of lasers that they can use in order to remediate. Like there's, someone of medium olive skin and darker can't use a CO2. Like it's off limits to them based on their skin tone. And there's other lasers out there that have come out now that can help, but yeah, people like Sienna Miller, Kate Blanchett, Charlize Theron. I mean, they're these fair women, and they look incredible. And it is not yoga and 8 hours of sleep at night. There is some intervention there, and I only say that because I've had some intervention there.
hmm
As like someone with similar coloring.
We're gonna have an intervention.
I'm here for it. I'm here for
Well,
it.
Melissa, it was so good talking to
Me
you.
too.
I love, well, just your personality and who you are, but also having you as someone I can call and be like, what's the deal with this? Is it real? Is this bullshit? And you'll know, because you're very smart. And I remember saying, like, you should have become a doctor. And you were like,
I gotta
doctors
die.
have to paint within the lines or color within the
Right.
lines, and I'm not good at that. But you know what? You're really good at what you do. And so thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
being on the podcast.
Wait, but I will give you one more celeb if you can find
Yeah.
out what her. She is my unicorn. If you can figure out the deal behind Marion Cotillard, I want it. I have
What do you
never,
mean the deal?
I have never seen somebody with better skin.
Oh.
I have never seen like prettier skin, more even skin tone, like a lovelier. If she's had surgical intervention, it is imperceptible, but it is perfect. She is
We're going
perfect.
to find out. I'm going to put my feelers out.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care.
You too.
Okay. Bye.